I'm so excited. #1 New York Times bestselling author of All We Ever Wanted and Something Borrowed, Emily Giffin. Thank you for joining me. I'm so happy to meet you.
Of course. Well, thank you, Ashley.
So the book we're talking about today is your newer book, The Lies That Bind. So without giving too much away, give me a brief synopsis.
Okay, brief synopsis. 29-year-old Cecily Gardner is a reporter in New York City. She's working for a newspaper, kind of trying to make her way. Just got out of a relationship, is wondering, like, should she not have moved to New York City? She's from the Midwest. When she meets this guy and he's like gorgeous, and she falls madly in love, and she can't even believe how wonderful he is. And then in the aftermath of 9/11, the book is set back in time, 20 years ago, 19 years ago, I guess. And he disappears in the aftermath of 9/11. And she's trying to uncover sort of the mystery of who he was and where he came from. And in so doing, she learns a lot about herself. She sort of uncovers the mystery of who she is. I think the book in many ways is about, it's a sort of ode to that time in New York City. A lot of it, the book happens before 9/11, which is like sort of the last summer of innocence. But it's also about how these moments in time and history, we're sort of in one right now, like with this COVID and
Right.
even the Black Lives Matter, the things that are happening on that front. Like, it's this moment in our national culture and history where we have all these external things going on, but we also, I think, are changing on the inside, and we're asking ourselves, like, is this the life that I want to be living? I think that's kind of been 2020 for a lot of people. As much has been going on in the world, like, it's also a lot of internal things going on.
Absolutely. And I felt like, whenever you have a book that has a backdrop where 9/11 is in the time frame, there's that risk of it being very sad. But I just want to put it
Sure.
out there. This is not a sad book. Like, this obviously has sad moments because of the
Yeah.
time, but
Yeah.
it was so enjoyable to read. I read it earlier this summer,
Oh,
and
well,
it
thank you,
was
Ashley.
just like it's a feel good movie. It's a feel good book. And at the
Hopefully
end,
we feel good
okay,
movie.
yeah, that's I'll get to
Yeah.
that. But I feel like at the end you have like this sense of closure and satisfaction
Sure. Well,
despite
thank
the
you.
time and the chaos that it is. Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it.
Thank
And
you for saying. Like, it really isn't too much about. It's really one chapter that's about, like, the day of 9/11.
Right.
It's and a lot of it happens before. You think back to, like, the summer of 2001. You're just like, it's just such a time of innocence. Like, how did we not know that it was coming? Kind of
And
thing.
it's interesting too, like you said, like I feel like people keep comparing now to 9/11 because it is just like it's a complete overhaul of life as we knew it. So it's interesting to go back to like that mindset and how things were. But back to the book. So I love that Darcy from Something Borrowed makes an appearance. And I
She
think
sure does.
it's always fun. And when you know an author and you've read, like you, I've read multiple of your books. So for you, are these characters from these past stories just always with you?
It's hard to ever really forget about Rachel and Darcy. They're
Yeah.
just like, they're the first characters that I brought to life. I wrote books that weren't published before Something Borrowed, but the first book that was really, that other people read, that besides my mother and sister.
Right.
It was turned into a movie, and a lot of people were introduced to the characters that way. So I think about them a lot, and it was too great of an opportunity to be writing about 2001, when it's actually sort of a prequel to. It's not really a prequel, but it happens before Something Borrowed.
Right.
So I think Something Borrowed was written in like 2003. So it was fun to go back and look at those characters, and to Ethan, the little scene with Ethan, and
Right.
but yeah, she was
It's
obnoxious. She was obnoxious in this book too, though, wasn't she?
yes. Yeah, I
Oh,
love
shut
that.
up.
It's so
Shut up,
good.
Darcy.
Yeah. Now, when you have a book that's adapted to the screen, like Something Borrowed, and you have Kate Hudson as Darcy, in your mind, do you think Kate Hudson when you think of Darcy, like, or did you have like a previous perception, and is that what you think about? Like, because I know
Yeah.
when I see a movie, the
Yeah.
movie version generally then like takes place of whatever was in my mind before.
Sure. Yeah. I think the answer is the same for me, with the exception of Something Borrowed. So,
Okay.
like I think that in Something Borrowed, maybe it's whatever you read, like if you read it first or see it first.
Right.
I don't know if that factors in with books to film other than my own, but I still see Darcy as a brunette. And I think, let me say this, I think that Kate Hudson nailed the character, like nailed it. I wouldn't change anything about the casting of her or her performance or any of that, but like I still see Darcy in my mind as like more of that, like the dark hair and like the green eyes and like the
Right.
um but she channeled her personality, boy. Like she was so good at that. Makes you wonder if she's like Darcy in real life. No, I'm kidding.
Right. No, I don't think she is. I don't want her to be like that.
Well,
Um,
Darcy became she redeemed herself in Something Blue. So
yeah, you're
yeah,
right.
but
So what's coming to the screen next? Is it Lies
so
That
we are
Bind or
working on the Lies That Bind as a limited
okay.
series, and it's the same producers that did Something Borrowed with me, and we have a few different projects kind of in the works. But what we're really doing right now is focusing on the Lies That Bind is a limited series, and so we're working on casting, and we're starting with Cecily. And as soon as I can, as soon as it's like official, I will tell you. I will like
Okay.
DM you first.
Yes, please. I
Yeah,
cannot
for
wait. I
sure.
love
I
when the
just
books come to the
actually
screen.
like I think I'm following you back.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just followed me. We're
Okay.
friends
Yeah.
now. We're official
So
friends.
overdue. We're officially friends.
Yes, I
But,
love it.
but yeah, so I'll let you know. But
Are
that's
you
exciting.
are you going to be in it? Like you were in Something
Oh, a
Borrowed?
cool little cameo. Yeah,
Yes.
I don't know. That'd be fun to do. It was like surprisingly difficult for me. I mean, it's like a cameo. I didn't even speak, but I'm sitting there on the bench and I keep looking directly into the camera. Like, is that
You're
good?
like Stan Lee. You're like so this series, I'm calling it the middle because it's my favorite place to be when I'm reading a good book or in the middle of a good show. But I want to talk to you about your journey kind of into writing because I know that you went to law school and then you decided to follow your dream. So when you were in the middle of that transition, what was that like for you? Because I think your story is inspiring for people to go after the thing that they really want to do.
Sure. Well, I hope that, I can sort of help encourage people or inspire them to take that leap. I think so much of life is a risk, like we have to take risks. And, when I look back, leaving the law, I loved law school. I did not like the practice of law. I started practicing in New York City with a mountain of debt, so I had to pay that back. And in the back of my mind, I was like, as soon as I can, I'm going to go after like my real dream of being a writer. So, but things sometimes are a little more circuitous than it sounds after the fact. Like it was, I wrote a book for 5 years while I practiced law that was rejected. So you're never going to get there. I mean, I guess there's some people who have this exceedingly charmed, easy path, but for the most part, when we have, big dreams, we're going to have setbacks and rejections and failures and, disappointments and heartache. And that definitely happened for me, but, you just have to push through it and sort of believe in yourself and keep trying. And I think also, though, because of how much I disliked being a lawyer, it was an easier risk to take
Mhm.
than sometimes I think we're in this, you call it the middle, but it could also be called like the good enough spot, like when things are good enough.
Mhm.
That sometimes can be the most, I think, scary place because, if your relationship is good enough, like if a guy is like cheating on you and horrible and, you're fighting all the time and, it's easy to sort of say, okay, like we're
On to the
breaking up.
next. Right.
But it's like when the relationship's really good, but something might seem missing and it's like, should I marry him or should I not? And like, that's, I think, it's much more difficult to navigate. And so for me, I fell into that first camp. The law was like the guy who's like, just a raging jerk and you've got to leave him. So
Okay.
I don't deserve as much credit for being brave as if I had been like in the good enough zone. But yeah, I quit and I moved to London and I started writing Something Borrowed, and I got lucky the second time, very lucky. The 2-book deal. So I wrote Something Blue after that, and I've been able to, continue to write ever since. And it's, every path has its challenges, and no career is like perfect. There's pros and cons to everything,
Of course.
but overall, I'm a lot happier creating these worlds than I was, writing legal briefs. So It's
And
good.
we are very happy. So please continue to do it.
Well,
I know you're in my little background book stuff.
oh, I like your little color. Very
Oh,
plastic. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you very much. But no, thank you so much for joining me. And then
Of
if people want
course.
to follow you, what is your social handle? I'll put it up.
Oh, it's at Emily Giffin author. So,
Awesome.
and no R in Giffin. A lot of people want to do Emily Griffin, but it's Emily Giffin.
Griffin.
But
Giffin.
yeah, follow me. And Ashley, I so appreciate it. I love chatting with you, and we'll be in touch, especially
Yeah.
once this casting is done.
Yes. So excited. I can't wait to see. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you, Ashley.